Hey, what's going on, everybody? Manny here once again. Welcome to DFS Zone, your source for daily fantasy sport lineup advice for the NBA and the NFL. I have a brand new video for you, ladies and gentlemen, but before I get started, like always, I appreciate you guys drop a like. And if you're new to the channel, first time here, never ever seen any of my NBA or NFL lineup advice videos, hey, the only thing you need to do to be able to get this content on a consistent daily basis is to become a subscriber down below. So make sure you subscribe, put on the post notifications, that bell icon on the right hand side. Make sure you click on that, turn that on, because that will notify you when I upload a new NBA or NFL lineup advice video. Okay, with that being said, today is Wednesday, December the 26th, 2018, and we have a 10-game slate in the association. And let's just get right to it. First things first, yesterday I didn't play a whole lot of lineups, but I did make a video the day before for Christmas Day, and it did not pan out. It was just one of those days where some of the plays just did not pan out, and I want people to understand these things are going to happen. Nothing is guaranteed. I don't care what anybody else tells you. Nothing's guaranteed when you're talking about professional sports. There are going to be days where things just don't pan out with certain players. Players get hurt. There's injuries. There's fouls. There's coaches making decisions. Players playing minimal minutes, disciplinary actions, so on and so forth. There's so many things that can go wrong that we have to, as fans and as DFS players, got to be able to understand as well. So nothing's guaranteed that anybody that I give you, or anybody else for that matter, on YouTube is going to pan out for you. We try to do the best we can as DFS players and people that have channels to try to help out as many new DFS players and players that really don't have the time to do the research. I put in quite a bit of time to narrow down my plays for you guys, which I don't share all that information with you guys, but I give you critical information that I think is important, and I narrow those things down, and that's what I present to you every time I give you a video. But it's not guaranteed that those players are going to pan out. But as if you follow me long enough, you'll see that majority of the time, most of my plays do pan out, and people have been able to have some success, at least listening to my videos and making some money. So that's the whole thing that I enjoy most of, is being able to help others. So again, bad night, didn't play, players didn't pan out as well. I think 3 out of the 5 were really, really bad. When they're that bad, it's definitely a disappointing night. Anyway, nonetheless, the beauty about DFS and the beauty about NBA DFS, ladies and gentlemen, is that you get a crack right at it the very next day if there's some games on the slate, and that's what we have today. So I'm ready to go. I'm not worried about what happened yesterday. It is what it is. I played 5-6 lineups, didn't make any money, but I didn't lose a whole lot of money because I didn't play a whole lot. So again, let's move on. All right, so today, on tap today, we got that 10-game slate, and at the top here, we got Kemba Walker. So we can see we got a couple of game-time decision news here. Mike Conley, if he happens to be out, we already know. If you've been following the injury news with him, you definitely will have a bump on Shelvin Mack. You can consider him as a value play if you wish. Kyle Lowry, well, if he's out, obviously Van Fleet gets a bump. Delon Wright gets a bump as far as minutes are concerned, and so on and so forth. You can go that route. But I believe both of these guys will be playing today. At least the last I heard is that they both were probably probable. So that looks pretty good there. I'm going to come down. John Wall is in play. I will have a little exposure to him, but maybe 1 or 2 lineups. He is pretty pricey, and when I look at his 9,700 price tag, even though he's going up against Detroit in this actual slate, ladies and gentlemen, is the worst team right now as far as giving up fantasy point totals to opposing point guards. 46.5 fantasy points per game over the last 5 or 6 games versus opposing point guards. So they definitely are in a vulnerable position. John Wall is in a good matchup and should do well here. Is he going to smash 50, 60? Tough to say, but he has a chance because there's vulnerability there with Detroit. They're not that good at all in defending point guards. So if John Wall shoots the ball well, he should have a big night. I will have some exposure to him. I won't make him a core play here, but I think he is definitely someone we should look at. When I compare him to De'Aaron Fox and the way De'Aaron has been playing, a little bit more consistent, been really, really good. His price tag is $8,200 compared to John Wall's $9,700. That's a $1,500 difference. And we have a player here in De'Aaron Fox that is in a matchup that is capable of putting up 45, 50, where John Wall, if he has a poor night, could get us maybe less than 40. Or just about 40 at that 97 price tag. I kind of like the chances with De'Aaron Fox just on numbers alone. So De'Aaron Fox, for me, will be the guy that I'm leaning on, is the one player that I will discuss with you again. I know I've gone through this kid several times already this year. Probably this is like the 5th time I've been giving you guys him as an actual good play. I just love the kid. He's been playing so well. 18 points, 3 rebounds, 7 assists, 37 fantasy points per game, 8,200. You need 41 to me value here. And on DK, he's 8,200 as well. Obviously, his 8,200 price tag is obviously a lot better here on FanDuel than on DK. So I prefer him here more so, but you can play him there if you can squeeze him in. De'Aaron Fox, minutes, everything is 6 out of his last 7 games or 8 games. He's been pretty much at 43 fantasy points or better. That is something that stands out to me right away. And then on top of that, we know he's one of the key components of their offense. Look at all this here, all the way down to about here. He's been very, very solid. The minutes are there. He's getting 34 plus, I would say 32, 33 minutes or better, pretty much 32 from here on up. 32 plus over the last like 8-9 games. Usage rate is fantastic, 24 to 25% on average. Has been as high as 29, 30, and even as high as 35 in certain games. And then the shots are there. He's taking about 15, maybe 14, 15 shots per game on average and taking about 3 or 4 threes on average. And he's not a bad three-point shooter. Can get to the foul line. Decent free throw shooter there as well. And of course, he brings out the dishes. He can get some assists for us, and he plays pretty good defense, man. His defense has been solid, at least as of the last 3 games. Look at this: 7, 8, 9 steals and 4 blocks over the course of the last 3 games. All good things that I love to see in point guards and shooting guards and guards in general, is if they can score, shoot the free throw, and be able to also go out there and defend and get these additional fantasy points. And this is something that I really do love the most out of this kid. He did play against LA earlier, put up a 41 spot this year, and then put a 35 spot in last year's meeting. As if I click here, you'll be able to see that 41 back on November 29th and a 35 spot last year in the last meeting. The Clippers are coming in here 20th in defending point guards, as you can see on the screen here. And they've been allowing 41.8, pretty much 42 fantasy points per game to opposing point guards over the course of the last 5 games or so. They did give up 55 to Curry, 27 to Murray, 52 to Doncic, 55 to Lillard, and 55 to Westbrook. Obviously, they were playing a lot of top-tier point guards in their last few games, and then now they got to go and deal with De'Aaron Fox, who's been playing so well as well. Definitely like De'Aaron Fox here. He is going to be the first guy I'm going to talk about. We go over it now. If you wanted to pay down a little bit, there are a couple possible plays here at point guard. Other than Wall and other than having Mr. De'Aaron Fox, you come down here to Mr. Alexander is someone that I would consider here, 5,600. You know, hasn't been playing that great, but is still a solid play here. He is going up against a team that has had issues as of late. Sacramento, of course, going up against De'Aaron Fox. You know, Sacramento is been giving up 41 fantasy points to no, actually, they've given up only 32.8 fantasy points to opposing point guards over the last 5 games. But he did put up a 41 spot against them earlier this year, and Sacramento is coming in here. As you can see, where is he? Sacramento, as you can see, is coming in 30th defending point guards right now. So obviously, as well as De'Aaron Fox's look with getting steals and blocks as of late, they have had some vulnerability there as far as giving up fantasy points. So 5,600, Alexander could be a possible nice play there. Another guy that I'm looking at is DJ Augustin, 4,800. Mr. Augustin's going up against Phoenix. Phoenix always has a vulnerability at the point guard spot. Defending it, they are coming in here defending point guards 13th in the league. And they've been giving up 37 fantasy points as of to opposing point guards as of late. And he has had his last 2 games against Phoenix, he did put up a 27 and a 36 spot. So he's in a position here that he can meet value. Other than him, I would think you got to consider Darren Collison here versus Atlanta. And he's another guy that I'm considering at 4,500. Atlanta's been giving up 38 fantasy points per game to opposing point guards as of late. And he has had 26 fantasy points or better in his last 2 matchups in a row versus Atlanta. And he also has some upside. He is capable of getting you 35, maybe even 40. So I love the factors that he has that upside of getting you, see, almost a 40. He did 40 already 3 times over the last maybe 15 games or so. So he has that potential to get you that as well. Then, of course, if there is no Derrick Rose, you got to obviously consider Tyus Jones. But I believe Derrick Rose will play from what I last heard. And that's pretty much where I'm at at point guard. Let's go over to shooting guard. Shooting guard, I'm going to go right to the top. Obviously, Holiday is not in a bad spot. Mr. Holiday, I am not willing to pay $9,200 against Dallas. Tough is, I wouldn't say it's a tough matchup. It's just I think that's a matchup where we need 46 from him, and I'm not sure if he can get us 46. I think he'll get close, but I don't think he'll smash it. I think he will not be a bad cash play if you wanted to play him. I think he's definitely going to get 30 to 35 or better, but I don't know if he'll get 45 or to 50. We're going to come down here. My first selection, I think Victor Oladipo at 8,500 is not a bad play at all here. 8,500 is a low price tag for Victor Oladipo in a very good matchup. He's going up against Atlanta, and he's been averaging 20 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, 39.7, pretty much 40 fantasy points per game. At 8,500, you need 42. He is 8,700 on DK, so you need about 43 there. But 3 out of his last 4 games, pretty solid, 39 plus as far as fantasy points. And we come over to the cruncher, and of course we know he has upper 50-point upside, so that's another beautiful thing. But as far as minutes are concerned, minutes 35 or better pretty much over the last 5 games. And as you can see, his usage rate is going to be fairly high, pretty much about 25 to 26% on average. And then he'll take at least 15 to 16 shots a game, and he'll take about 4 or 5 threes as well. All right, and he's not that bad when he gets hot. Shooting wise, as of late, as you can see, is a little off in his last game, 4 of 13 and 2 of 7 from the 3-point stripe. But he fills up the stat sheet in other ways. He gives you some rebounds. He'll get you assists. And of course, he is not a bad defender. As you can see, 5 steals over the course of the last 2 games. And he is capable of getting the occasional block or 2 once in a while. So I like that from Victor Oladipo. He's versus Atlanta this year. Actually, he played earlier this year, only 5 minutes. So obviously we're not going to even consider that. We're going to go back to last year, 33, 53, 48, 33. So 2 48-plus games last year, and pretty much 2 over 3, 33. So I like the turnout he has had there. He's going up against Atlanta. They're 25th in defending shooting guards, and they have been allowing 33.3 fantasy points per game to opposing shooting guards as of the last 5 games. They did give up 27 to Timmy Hardaway, 47 to Bradley Beal, and Joe Harris of the Brooklyn Nets put up 28. These are the top 3 guys over the last 5 games, obviously with Beal being the top dog there. I definitely like the chances that he has here, Victor Oladipo, against this group. So Victor Oladipo in play for me. We're going to put him in the lineup there. Then we go as far as other possible plays at shooting guard. There's only 2 other guys that I would consider. Not too many guys I like here in the shooting guard spot. Obviously, you can consider Buddy Hield in this matchup against the Clippers. I'm going to come down here to Justin Holiday, 5,600 with the amount of minutes and everything he's getting. I think he's not a bad play. Minnesota's coming in here giving up 34 fantasy points per game to opposing shooting guards. They did give up 41 to Bullock and 47 to Booker not so long ago, as well as Buddy Hield, 29.5, and Klay Thompson, 32. So I kind of like Justin Holiday here as well. You could come down $200 cheaper. Jordan Clarkson has been getting massive minutes as of late. So for the amount of minutes he gets and the way he's been scoring as of late in the last 3 games, 27, 31, and 17. Granted, he is more shooting dependent, so he needs to score with his shots. He's more of a shooter. But Jordan Clarkson here versus Memphis. Memphis, 36.6 fantasy points per game to opposing shooting guards over the last 5 games. I definitely think for the amount of minutes and the potential that he has as far as scoring, 5,400 is not a bad price tag for him to be able to get those 26, 27 fantasy points you need. So I like Mr. Jordan Clarkson there as well. They have given up those out of those 36.6 fantasy points that I mentioned. Buddy Hield put up 40, Klay Thompson 38, James Harden 62, and Josh Richardson 37. That was 4 out of the last 6 games. Those were their opponents. We go to small forward. And at small forward, you got here at the top, you got Kawhi Leonard. Obviously, Kawhi would be in play if there is definitely no Kyle Lowry. I mean, that's hands down. I will tell you right now, I will have exposure to Kyle Lowry if there is a chance that there's a minutes restriction or no Kyle Lowry in the lineup today. Definitely he will be a lock for Toronto as far as getting the usage that he's obviously going to be demanded to be to put up there for this team. But we come down here on the bottom half here. I think Robert Covington is not a bad play. In the small forward spot, I really am not loving a lot of these guys, to be honest with you. Other than Kawhi Leonard at that $10,400 price tag, maybe, just maybe, Warren in that matchup against Orlando, I think is not a bad play. I think his price is a little high. I would have loved to see that price at about $6,900. Gallo here versus Sacramento is not a bad play at $7,300. I think he can get you 35 in this matchup. Covington, not a bad, but I'm going to come all the way down to Mr. Namaje Bjelica. Mr. Bjelica at 5,300, I think is not a bad price tag for the amount of minutes he plays and the potential and the upside that he has as far as what he can get us here. 10 points, pretty much 6 rebounds, 2 assists, 24 fantasy points, $5,300 here on FanDuel. He need 26 here to meet value. On DK, he's 4,800. You need 24. Loving the factors that 6 out of his last 8 games, he has been at 24 or better. So he's at least averaging and playing above, trending slightly upward above his average. And like I said already, he has that 40-point upside. Let's look for him here. And where is Mr. Bjelica? There you go. And as you can see, they're a little down here with the red, hasn't quite met value, but I'm loving the factors that he has 40, 45-point upside. I love the factors that he gets more than enough minutes. His usage rate is pretty good. He's at about maybe 17, 18% on average, and at times have been up as high as 20, 25%. He's going to get about 9 to 10 shots per game on average, and he'll take about 4 or 5 threes pretty much on average as well. And if he gets cooking there, that will be definitely a bonus for us. He's not a bad free throw shooter. When he gets to the line, he's been pretty efficient, and he can get his rebounds, and he has the occasional blocks as well as steals, which is all added fantasy point totals that we love. Last time he played the Clippers, he only put up a 16 spot, but last year he did put up a 35 spot in one of the last 2 games that he played against them. His situation has obviously been changed because now he's on a team where he's starting and he's getting more than enough minutes and he's getting more offensive opportunities. The Clippers 29th in defending small forwards, 29 fantasy points per game to small forwards over the last 5 games. They did give up 68 to Durant, which is obviously a monster. Harkless did put up 24, Paul George 54, Derek White put up 20, and Mr. Trevor Ariza put up 31 against them, which it fits more in the range of Bjelica. So again, I do like paying a little bit down here at small forward. If I'm not playing Lowry, I would think the Bjelica is not a bad play. I do like I said, Gallinari there as well, and a little bit of Covington. If you're not willing to play Mr. Bjelica at small forward, other than, like I said, Trevor Ariza is definitely someone to consider. 6,000 here. He is starting for Washington without no Otto Porter. So you got to have a consideration of Trevor Ariza. You need pretty much 30 from him there. Detroit has been giving up 33 fantasy points to opposing small forwards as of late. So it meets around his fantasy point total. He's been averaging 27. Then you have Bjelica. Then Juancho Hernan Gomez is someone that I'm considering. Juancho 5,200. You need pretty much 26. He's been averaging 21. And Hernan Gomez, San Antonio's been giving up 32.3 fantasy points per game to opposing small forwards as of late. So I kind of like Juancho as a possible sneaky play there. And then you have the other person that I really do love down here is Etuan Moore for the New Orleans Pelicans versus Dallas. 4,300 is not a bad price for the amount of minutes and the shooting that the guy has been putting up as of late. So Etuan Moore, Dallas has been giving up 27.3 fantasy points per game, and he has put up 24 plus versus this team in 3 straight games. So he's had pretty good success against Dallas. So again, keep an eye on Etuan Moore. If you needed to pay down here, he may be a very sneaky person to put in this matchup here for the Pelicans versus Dallas. We go over to power forward. At power forward at the top, we got AD. Anthony Davis is obviously in play for me. I will have him in about 20% of my lineups. It is a hefty price tag, $12,500. You need 62 from him, but he is 70-point upside pretty much any given night. And he's in a matchup here where I just don't see whom is going to be able to defend him. So I think this could be a night he could put up 70 or better. He's been averaging 61 fantasy points per game. On DK, he is 11,800. You need 58 over there, which is a lot more reasonable. So that's 4 fantasy points less than FanDuel. So Anthony Davis definitely in play there. I'm not going to put him here as a core, but Anthony Davis, like I say, I always tell you guys who I'm going to be favoring. So I definitely will have some Anthony Davis in this matchup, probably about 15-20% of my lineups. Blake Griffin, not in a bad spot here as well, 9,100. I'm just not willing to pay that high. I'd rather go to Anthony Davis, who can get me 70 or better in a more favorable matchup. Here he's going to have to deal with a little bit of Markieff Morris. And Markieff Morris is a little tough guy, man. You know, come down here, Lauri Markkanen. Could be someone you can possibly pencil in here. But I'm going to come down, and my first guy, the guy I really like is Montrezl Harrell. 6,600 has had great success against Sacramento thus far in his career. 15 points, 6 rebounds, pretty much almost 2 assists, 31 fantasy points, 6,600. You need 33 to meet value. And at DK, he's 5,700. Definitely stands out on DK at 5,700. You only need 27 fantasy points there, and he's averaging 31 here on Fanduel. So definitely a very, very good spot for him on DK. 4 out of his last 5 games, as you can see here, 32, 31, 36, 35, it's been 31 or better, which is above his average. We come over to the cruncher at power forward, and we're going to go to Mr. Harrell here. And as you can see, those numbers look pretty right there. And the bottom line is his price tag is still reasonable, 62, 68, 68, 68, and he's now down $200 for today at 6,600. The minutes are quite there as well, 25 or better over the last 4 or 5 games. His usage rate has been slowly going up. As you can see, he is at 23% over the last 3 straight games, and he's been averaging about 11 to 12 shots a game over the last 4 out of 5 games. We know what we're going to get from him. We're going to get rebounds. We're going to get offensive rebounds and defensive rebounds. He is just a battler under the boards. He can get us a few assists, and what he brings is the shot blocking ability. He's capable of getting us some blocks and the occasional steal here and there. He's been at double digits for 5 straight games as far as offensively. He's going up against his team, Sacramento, which he already has put up a 36 spot this year. And last year, he put up 33 or better in 3 out of the 4 matchups. So he has been at 33 or better 4 straight games against these guys. So he has been pretty consistent. And we know he has 40-point upside. So Montrezl Harrell here at 6,600 is someone I definitely do like in today's matchup going up against Sacramento. Sacramento 22nd, as you can see here, in defending small forwards. They've been allowing 32.4 fantasy points per game over the last 5 games, so it's right in the ballpark for Montrezl Harrell. Davis put up 69. Jaren Jackson put up 35. Jeremy Grant put 28, and Taj Gibson put up 29 over the last 4 out of 5-6 games. So if you're not on Montrezl Harrell, there are a couple of guys that stand out to me here in the power forward spot that I will have some exposure to. One guy that stands out, Domantas Sabonis here at 6,600 going up against Atlanta. You have to have some consideration for him. Atlanta is 30th in defending, dead last in defending power forwards this year, and they've been giving up 30.4 fantasy points per game as of late. In his last matchup against them, he put up 42. And he put up a 38. He put up a 28 and a 40 last year against them in 2 meetings as well. So you definitely have to consider Sabonis. You have here at the top, Lauri Markkanen is someone that I'm considering as well. 7,700. His price tag is up, but he's been averaging pretty much 40 fantasy points or better over the last several games. And he's playing maximum amount of minutes. And he's going up against Minnesota, who is 25th in defending power forwards, and have only been giving up only about 28.5 fantasy points per game to opposing power forwards. But I think that's an area for him that he could be able to be successful in. We come down, and who else here? I do like Josh Jackson. Has had good success against Orlando, 5,100 here, and he pretty much 25 to me value. He's been averaging 19. Jackson versus Orlando. Orlando is 5th in defending power forwards this year, but Jackson's been in the 3, he's been in the 4, so it all depends more or less where he's at. But if you're going up against the 4s, Orlando's been getting up 27 fantasy points per game to opposing power forwards, but in his matchups, he has had 33 plus fantasy points in his last 3 meetings against the Orlando Magic. So Josh Jackson could be someone to consider here at 5,100. And I also do like Bam Adebayo here, 5,000. He did put up in his last matchup against Toronto a 50 spot. And he also had a 53 spot last year in one matchup against him. So he's put up 250s over the last 2 or 3 games against this team. Toronto's coming in here 13th in defending power forwards, and they've given up only 25.5 fantasy points per game, but they have had their issues with Bam. And the other guy that I do like also is Markieff Morris here. He gets up for these games. He's going to play against Blake Griffin. Markieff, 4,900. He's going up against Detroit. They're 16th in defending power forwards, but as of late, they've been giving up 33 fantasy points per game to opposing power forwards. And this man here averaged a 32 plus. 32 plus. Where's Markieff Morris? He has average of 30. If I saw that correctly, yes. Look at the games here. In 5 straight games, 32 fantasy points or better with a 41 spot and a 40 spot. So he has done well against Detroit. So I like Markieff Morris there as well. And I will have exposure to Markieff because he's down at that price tag that just fits in perfectly with the guys that I'm giving you. So again, let's put Montrell's in there. So we still have 6,200, and that's what I like at power forward. We're gonna go over to center, and at center today, at the top, man, you got Jokic, 10,300. Could be someone to be put in play. Jokic here going up against San Antonio. San Antonio's giving up only 28.6 fantasy points per game. I'm not too fond of the price tag for Jokic here. I do like Mr. Andrew Drummond and Mr. Karl Anthony Towns are my 2 favorite here at the top today on FanDuel. So I'm going to go with Andrew Drummond. AD here, 17 points, 15 rebounds, pretty much 1 assist a game, 45.9, 46 fantasy points per game at 9,700. You need 47 fantasy points to meet value here, and on DK he's 9,200. You need 45 from him to meet value. He's averaging 46, so the numbers are not too bad for him. It would have been nicer if he was in the 92, 93 range here on FanDuel as well, but we'll take that. I think he is going to be able to really, really kick some serious butt here today against this team. 41 plus in 8 out of his last 9 games, so meaning that he's at least near his average or has exceeded his average a few times during the course of those games. We come and take a look at him a little bit further over here, Mr. Drummond, and as you can see, the minutes have been a little choppy. Last game 29, but 25% usage rate, put up a 53 spot, had an excellent game as far as rebounding and block shots. That's why we got all the fantasy point totals up, but the minutes are there. 33 plus minutes pretty much on average per game. His usage rate about 24-25% on average if you calculate it. And then you come over here, his shot selection is somewhat in the 14-15 shots per game. You know he's not a good free throw shooter, so we don't want to get him on the line a whole lot, as you can see, but he brings the rebounding. He brings rebounding and he brings blocked shots, and he's been really good at stealing the ball as of late. He's been defending well as of late, getting all these steals and blocks. He's been pretty solid as of late, and he's going to be double digits. He's going to always give you a double-double, and he's pretty much almost a 20-plus rebounder per game. So you get a lot of additional fantasy point totals with his rebounding skills as well. So Andrew Drummond, I definitely like him here against Washington. And the last time he played Washington earlier this year, he was at 9,900. He's actually cheaper by $200 today. He put up a 44, which is okay. But as you can see, he had 3 straight 56-plus games last year to end the year versus Washington. He's in a favorable matchup again. Washington's coming here 17th in defending centers, and they have been allowing 36.7 fantasy points per game to opposing centers over the last 5 games. They gave Miles Turner 48, DeAndre Ayton, which I gave you him in that matchup before, he put up a 50, and Mr. Capella put up 41. So those are 3 out of the last 5 games. Those are the guys they have faced. And that's pretty much where I'm at as far as center. Whoops, sorry. Let me click them in there. And if you add them in there, you still got 54.25. And like I said, I already gave you a couple guys that I like that are in that 49, 5,300 range. So you could get a couple of those guys in here. Slowly but surely, you can build a nice little lineup. If you're not on Mr. Drummond, definitely Mr. Towns is someone to consider. Obviously, Mr. Vucevic here is in a good spot against Phoenix as well. I mean, you get Phoenix giving up nearly 33 fantasy points per game as of late. They gave up 48 to Mr. Bryant, 36 to Cantor, and 60 to Karl Anthony Towns. Again, Mr. Towns also in a good spot here, going up against Chicago. Chicago, the worst in this matchup today as far as centers are concerned. 45.3 fantasy points per game to opposing centers over the last 5 games. Obviously, I will have Mr. Towns in a few lineups as well. They did give up 59 to Vucevic, 37 to Mr. Steven Adams, 48 to Aldridge, and 48 to Vucevic in another matchup. So Vucevic 59 and a 48 against them. But if you want to save some money, I think Marc Gasol, especially on DK. Now on DK, I mean, Marc Gasol's price on DK, even DeAndre Ayton and even Mr. Whiteside, I think is under 6,000 or 6,600. Those guys you definitely got to consider. For you guys that mostly play DraftKings, I think that Ayton, Whiteside, and Gasol, they're priced pretty nice on DK. So definitely take a look at those guys there. You could consider Mr. Miles Turner here versus Atlanta. I don't see no reason why not. You know, Atlanta's giving up 30.1 fantasy points per game as of late. They did give up 53 to Drummond not so long ago. But I'm going to come down. I think Cody Zeller is someone you got to consider, and Thomas Bryant. Cody Zeller, especially against Brooklyn. Cody Zeller, pretty nice play at 5,300 here. You need about 26, 27. He's averaging nearly 23, 5,300. And he's going up against Brooklyn. Brooklyn is dead last defending centers in 30th in the league, and they've been allowing 40.3. That's the second most as far as centers in the matchup today in this given slate. As far as centers are concerned, they've given up 40.3 fantasy points per game. So I think Mr. Cody Zeller could be someone you could slap in there in one or two lineups, or if you wanted to pay down and then pay up somewhere else to pay up for a couple of studs, then I would say definitely take a stab at Cody Zeller. You could also take a stab at Thomas Bryant if you wanted to. I think at 5,200, he's someone to consider as well. As we know, Andrew Drummond is not the greatest defender, but has been playing pretty good defense as of late. Thomas Bryant, could be someone you could have here at 5,200. You pretty much need 26. He's going up against Detroit, 16th in defending centers. They only have been giving up 28.6, Mr. Drummond, fantasy points per game, which is, still above his average, and he has done well enough in the last few games that you can consider him to get you at least 25, maybe even 30 against Mr. Drummond. Obviously, I love Mr. Drummond's matchup against Mr. Thomas Bryant a lot more. And that's pretty much where I'm at. Ladies and gentlemen. So again, drop a like on the video. Again, make sure if you haven't subscribed as of yet and you want to be able to get information on a regular basis as far as your lineups are concerned for the NBA, make sure you become a subscriber. Make sure you definitely put on your post notifications. This way you don't miss out on any of the new videos. And that's pretty much it, man. Good luck tonight. Again, you can always comment down below. You guys know who you are. There's a number of you that do it on a regular basis. Ask me, pick my brain, just try to get an idea more or less. Sometimes you're not too sure between two pair of players or two players. Again, you can comment down below. You can ask me pretty much anything at the same time. You can also reach out to me on the other social networks as well, like Twitter or even on Instagram, whatever you prefer to do. And that's basically it, man. I wish you guys a lot of luck, and I'll see you guys for tomorrow's video.